So I learned at an early age, and I actually thank people like, Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer and these guys who amassed millions of dollars like really, really quickly, but then lost a lot of it. And when you see that, you kind of go, oh, okay, they were the biggest at the time, and now they're not.
Today's guest is truly one of a kind, a founding member from the legendary group called N.W.A, a group that didn't just change music, but change culture. What many people may not know is that Arabian Prince has also been a lifelong technologist, futurist, entrepreneur, and innovator. Long before the tech founder became a popular identity, he was already blending creativity with technology, from music to production and electronic to sound to 3D animation to video games and VC, and now he's building the pathways for the next generation of founders. His story is not just about fame. It's about curiosity, reinvention, ownership, and what happens when you refuse to stay inside of a box. So let's welcome OG Arabian Prince.
Burning question she wants to ask. You want to go and ask Arabian the question?
Yes, this is one question I've been wanting to ask you, and I'm very honored to be able to ask right now. So with all of you guys all had amazing startups and seven-figure exit. I am so honored to be here, but I'm actually one of those founders in the past. I had a failed business, and I was in entertainment, which, it's a cutthroat business. It's like I'm trying to just stay my head above water so the agents will call me back. And when that happened, I had to understand what exactly happened. When I lost everything, I lost not just the business. In Hollywood, they're just saying you are as good as your last movie. So you can imagine my self-image, my confidence. I lost that. I lost my marriage. I lost my house. So it was like this broken heart, but also the sense of I want to do it again. And that's why I'm here as a board member with TCVN. And I became a coach because I had to understand why. And one thing I learned from Michael was most businesses fail not because of the business or the market. It's because of the founders. And I believe that's what I was in. So I'm telling you this because I feel like you understand entertainment. We are living in the world of digital where everything is a filmmaker nowadays. It's very different. You understand business. You have your ups and downs. What advice do you have? And not just for me, it's for all the listeners, because every startup is so emotional. So much is on the table. For me, I just had to lose it all to kind of refine myself. And I don't wish that upon anyone. But sometimes I also know when I lose it all, you have that fire. And I had that fire in me. So I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so especially in the entertainment industry, what people have to understand is that, it is not the same as it used to be. Entertainment used to be very segmented. You had film, television, radio, music, recording, and all that. But in this modern time, everything is one. I call it the Star Wars theory. Everything is one, the Force. So you have to be looking at it as a whole. Like every medium has now been grouped together because everyone in this world has a cell phone in their pocket that can do absolutely anything in entertainment. So in order to capture that market share, you have to kind of look at what people are doing and capture that. So that's one thing. And two, you mentioned something about it could be the founders that, made it fail. Yes and no. I still think that there are companies that have had major success with very poor product, but they had great marketing. I always call it, when I worked in the video game industry, there are a lot of bad video games that people spent millions of dollars on, and people thought they were great because their marketing was so great. It's the big red button. If you've got a big red button that's shiny and you tell everybody, if you push this red button, it's the greatest game of all time, and you can get those people to believe that, they'll buy that game. Same thing with your product, same thing with your startup. The first and foremost is believing in your product, but the second most important thing is getting other people to believe in your product. If you can't do that, I don't care how good your product is, they're not going to buy it. They're not going to buy into it. So I think that, some people fall in love with their product or their startup or their business or what they're doing. And I always tell people, do not fall in love with what you do, right? Fall in love with the vision, but always look to be able to change it, to move. And, you got to be like Bruce Lee said, be like water. water is formless. So your startup has to be formless in order for it to succeed. So hopefully that helped out.
So taking an omni-channel approach to
Yes.
marketing, do you have a different strategy for each segment, or is it an overarching strategy for omni-channel?
I just think it's an overall strategy because you have to take a piece from a bunch of different things now because we're in the future of AI. AI, and here's the funny thing, and I was watching something and they were like, in court now, the judges are really yelling at a lot of the prosecutors and attorneys because they're using AI to help them with their cases. And AI has, what they call phantom vision. Like they'll say things or quote things that aren't actually true. But in court, they're like, yeah, this case number, blah, blah, blah. And the judge goes, that's not a real case. So using AI, which a lot of people are doing, are creating all of these new weird things. Some are real, some are good, some are bad. And you as a startup got to look at what people are doing now. And you've got to be the future, right? And that's what I'm a self-proclaimed futurist. So you have to be the future. You have to kind of look at what is not now, but what's next, right? And I think that's the most important thing is if you're going to put some money into something, put money into something that you think people are headed to, or, the product or the marketing or the vision of this country or the world is headed to. That's where you got to be.
So what would you tell a teenager now about choosing a college or a profession or?
Yeah, I would tell, and I'm doing a commencement speech soon, and I'll tell these students the same thing I'm going to say in a couple of weeks is you've picked a career, but that career you picked when you started in school is no longer the same career that you thought it was going to be. You have to kind of look at what you've learned, take what you've learned. How do you adapt that to AI? How do you adapt that to the future of this country in the next 2 years, 1 year? Because every 3 months it's evolving. So you have to really, really look to the future. Don't think that you're just going, oh, this is what I learned in 4 years in the university and I'm going to go apply that. It's already obsolete.
Well, before we dive too much into future money,
Yeah.
Lillian is restarting, basically, right? Starting at the beginning. And I always believe that, even though you may have a great product, you don't have a business until you have your first sale.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to you as a young entrepreneur? When did you get your first dollar? Can you take us back to that moment?
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. So how I got my first dollar, it was a product of, I'm not going to say being deprived. I'm saying it's a product of being an only child who had a mother who was overly protective. And she wouldn't let me go to the malls with my cousin. She wouldn't let me go to the parties. I'm in elementary school. Like they had school dances. She would never let me go to the school dances. So I would sit there and go, I can figure this out, right? My father had a talk radio show on a radio station called KACE. And when he would do his talk radio show, I would sit in the control booth next to him and I would play with all the records and carts and things that when they were doing music. So I learned how to DJ just sitting over there, right? And I would start making little mixtapes and taking them to school and selling them for, lunch money. But what happened was I realized that because I can DJ, maybe if I can talk my parents into buying me equipment, I could start DJing the dances, which means I'm the first one at the dance, the last one to leave, and no one's yelling at me or laughing at me because my parents dropped me off, and I'm making money. So my actual first dollar was as a DJ. And from that, it moved into me meeting Dr. Dre and meeting Egyptian Lover and a lot of other my friends that we grew up together and getting together and going, wait a minute, we're DJing this music and rap had just started. And maybe we can do this music. And we started making records.
And we're talking about the 90s.
Oh, we're talking the 80s.
We're talking about the 80s.
I made my first record in 1984. I was working at the time at a pet store in Lenox, California for a guy. And he had like a huge pet store that was selling, like 100-pound bags of chicken feed and 50-pound bags of goat feed. And I was carrying that stuff to people's car. And he actually owned a little center on the corner that he would do events, an event center. And one day he was doing a quinceanera. And you know what? I'm going backwards. So that's how I met him.
Wait, when you go backwards,
Yeah.
how old were you?
I was probably 15 at the time.
15 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was doing little dances at schools. And
How much you got paid?
for the quinceanera, probably a couple $100.
Okay.
You know, this is 83, I think. I was still in school. So 82, 83. And I asked the guy who owned the place that I was doing the quinceanera, what do you do with this building when you're not renting it out for events? He goes, well, it just sits here. I'm like, can I rent it out for doing parties for a teen party club thing? And he goes, you can pull people in. I'm like, yeah, I do all the schools. I'm like, I'm popular, you know. So he gave me a shot. He literally bought speakers, bought records, bought all the equipment, put it in his little, you know, place. We called it the cave. And I came in there and I put up flyers and passed them out at schools. And we had a teen club on Fridays and Saturday night. And I would go to the store and get 2-liter bottles of Coke and Pepsi and all of these things and sell 50-cent cups of soda. And that was my first thing. And that was my club.
So this was paid admission to teens?
Yeah, paid admission.
Yeah,
We were charging like $2.50.
That's like $20 today, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's $20
yeah.
today.
And it went on for a while. I mean, it got pretty big in the neighborhood. And you know, the gang scene kind of got big and it ended up fizzling out later on. But by that time, I was already making records.
But you were building your rep at the time.
Yeah, building my rep.
Now you said that transitioned you into N.W.A. Can you tell us about that transition?
Yeah, so I was DJing there and doing all these small clubs and, you know, schools. And Dr. Dre and DJ Yella, who were part of the group N.W.A., they were doing their own thing. They were DJing, and they had formed a group called the World Class Wrecking Crew in Compton. So we were all in Compton doing these little things, doing skating rinks and doing stuff together. So we all became friends. And at one point, this group called Uncle Jam's Army, which was the bigger DJ crew in LA. I mean, they would do the convention center and the sports arena with 10,000 people. I became friends with them and got an opportunity to do some DJing and stuff. And they, one day, a buddy of mine, Egyptian Lover, they had bought a drum machine. And he told me one day, we're going in the studio to make a record. And I'm like, wow, they're going to make a record. And then I talked to Dr. Dre and DJ Yella and Lonzo from the World Class Wrecking Crew. And they were like, we're about to go make a record. And I'm sitting there like, I want to make a record. But I wasn't part of either crew. I was affiliated. I was friends with them. But I'm like, I want to make a record too. So I literally saved up $500, and the guy who owned the little hall that I was DJing at in the pet store gave me another $500. I'm like, go do it. And I went in a recording studio, had never been in a recording studio. My mother was a classical pianist, so I knew how to play. And I walked in and I'm like, I'm gonna make a record. I made a record, got it done, and took it to a record distributor where everybody was getting their stuff pressed up, and next thing you know, I got a record.
I have a question. You make it sound very easy.
It is easy.
It is easy. Okay, I love that mindset. But when you took it to the record distributor, because ultimately that's distribution and that's sales, how did you have to pitch it? Did you just go and be like, hey, put this on your...
I didn't even have a car at the time. So I took a bus over there to Hollywood to the place and walked in, and I've always had this, I don't know, this lucky thing, you know, like things always happen for me because I'm always happy. My friends call me SpongeBob and Willy Wonka because I'm always happy. And I think the positive attitude is really important to be successful. So I walk in, I got this record, and just so happened the guy who owned the record pressing plant and distribution plant was there. And he was sitting with this guy named Russ Parr, who was the morning show DJ on K-Day, which was the big radio station in LA. And he had been making records. Like, he was like the black, what was his name? The guy who made all the comedy records. You know, Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So he was like the black Weird Al Yankovic doing like parody records. And when I walked in, I was like, I got this record. I had never met these guys before. And he goes, oh, let me listen to your record. So he listened to my song. He's like, I like that. He says, you made that? I'm like, yeah. He said, are you a producer? And I'm like, yeah. I'm a producer. You produce? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I got an idea for you. He says, how about this? I have a label. Let me put your record on my label, and then you can produce my songs. So I not only went in and got a record deal, but also a production deal to do records. So I ended up doing all of the songs for Bobby, Jimmy, and the Critters. That was the name of the group, and producing for them and actually being in the group as well as doing my own records. And at that point, I didn't really have to pay for it anymore. It was just like a blessing in disguise. So
And how old were you?
maybe 16, 17 at the time.
Okay, so
Yeah.
15, you started the club.
Yep.
Right. That evolved to 16. A year later,
Oh yeah,
producing your
it moved fast. Everything moved fast because a year or two after that is when me and Dre started talking to this guy named Eazy-E, who was, I always say, he was the neighborhood pharmaceutical technician. Let's just put it like that. And he came to us. Dre met him at a swap meet, and he said, "Man, Eazy wants to get into the music business. He's tired of doing the stuff he's doing. Let's figure out something and do something else." So we ended up doing this super group called N.W.A. with me, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, Ice Cube, MC Ren, and DJ Yella. And the rest was history, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all of that stuff.
So you said Eazy-E was at the swap meet?
He was at the swap meet.
Doing what?
Just hanging out. We would go to swap meet and hang out and buy stuff. And Dre met him there through another guy who had a little record store at the swap meet. So,
Okay.
And can we paint the picture of what Compton is? Because we're in California, we know, but a lot of people that's listening, they're probably not familiar with Compton.
Everybody knows about Compton. No, Compton was just a little neighborhood and just south of South Central. That was, we called it the hood, but that's where we grew up. And a lot of creative people and artists and even actors. Anthony Anderson's from Compton. A lot of sports figures are from Compton. So yeah, it's a place that have birthed a lot of successful people.
So yeah, a lot of people might know it from Compton Towers.
Yeah,
Right.
Well, that's the Watts Towers. So that's right next to Compton.
Right next,
Yeah,
but it's the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Same neighborhood. I've been there in my day. But where I was going with this thing is this DJing and from a corner venue to, a big hall, and all of the time in the different groups that you worked with, that's the garage band progression.
Yes.
That almost every major musician has gone through. That's where you learn your chops.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And
go ahead.
yeah, and it's where you learned how to have a business. Because I just spent $1,000 on a record, and I had no clue of how I was going to get the money to actually press it, distribute it, put it out there. I wasn't thinking about marketing. I'm like, I got a record, and it just happened for me.
It's pure entrepreneurship. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. And
Right,
then,
and-
from there, you learn the industry on the inside. And once we started N.W.A. and that started to blow up, the story that everybody knows from the movie Straight Outta Compton and everything, we had issues with our manager who was, I say doing some shady stuff here and there. I left the group first because of that. I saw early on that we weren't getting paid where we were supposed to get paid. And the reason that I knew faster than the other members of the group was I had my own solo records. So they were in groups where somebody else managed everything. I managed all my own stuff. So I knew what royalties were. I knew what, taking care of your publishing and your writers and all of this stuff. There were so many different ways to make money off of one record. I knew that. And once the group started going and the manager got involved, I'm like, something wrong here. I got to get out of here. So that's what, we were talking earlier about, the bad things that actually turn into the good things, right? That was the bad thing, is our manager doing, skimming and not paying us what we needed to be paid, which made me realize that I needed to really, really tighten up on my business even more.
But that's the foundation of your entrepreneurial growth and all of the things, including what you're wearing today.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about your golf attire?
Yeah, so I've been golfing for, I'm about to age myself here. I've been golfing for about 45 years. When I made my first record, my mother didn't know what was going on with that because she would find money like cash. Like I'm 16, 17 years old. I got like $2,000 of cash in my drawer. You know, she thought I was doing something else besides making records. But once she figured it out, she made me get accountants and attorneys to take care of my business. And they all played golf. So anytime that I wanted to talk to them, they were on the golf course somewhere. So I went out one time and played some golf with them, and not played, actually went to go just pick up a check because I wanted rims on my car. I just got a car. And I go out there, and they're like, here, hit the ball. I'm like, I don't want to play this stupid game. This game is stupid. I don't want to play golf. They gave me the club, and I'm trying to hit the ball. I'm swinging. I'm not even hitting the ball. I haven't even touched the ball. So a guy showed me something which has stuck to me to this day. And any, you know, amateur golfer or golfer who wants to get better should listen to this. The ball is a nail. The club is a hammer. There's only one club you hit up on, that's the driver. Every other club you want to hit down on. So he said, just hit down on the ball. Don't worry about a swing, just let it go. So I do that. It's a little short par 3. My ball goes out there. It's late evening. It's kind of dusk. And we go out and look for my ball. We can't find my ball, right? And my ball's in the hole. So I had a hole in one the first time I touched the golf ball. Now, I hate the game, don't like the game, never liked the game. But when that happened, I'm like, that was easy. Okay. And instead of me taking that money and buying rims for my car, I bought like clubs and golf bag and been hooked ever since. So my golf brand is a extension of my journey in golf, you know, because now I'm a scratch player. And the journey has been, I watch TV, I play a lot of golf. On TV, you see the perfect swings. You see the pro golfers in the marketing campaigns and all of this. But on the golf course, you see regular golfers. You might see one good golfer in 15 rounds of golf that you play. So I wanted to start this brand called GOAT with 3 G's, which stands for the greatest golf game of all time and the greatest golf gear of all time. And our motto is very simply that everybody's a GOAT. The worst golfer in the world. And this also has to go with the startup. The worst golfer in the world will have a hole in one. And there's pros who've never had a hole in one. So everybody's a GOAT. Just simple.
Love it.
What are some of the lessons that you learned from, we'll call it, before you pivoted into fashion?
Yeah.
But you were in the music entertainment industry. What are some lessons that you learned during that chapter in your life that you're starting to apply in this new chapter?
Yeah, so like I said, the first thing was, you know, getting ripped off. That's the first. Everybody needs to get ripped off, because if you never get ripped off, you never feel that pain of, wait a minute, somebody stole my money. Or then you look back and you go, I can't blame them because I let it happen. If I took care of my business, it wouldn't have happened, right? And what people like, just like you said, you had issues, you had a fail. It's not a fail. You just had a little bump in the road, right? But what people forget about the words of the things that you do, the entertainment industry, the entertainment business, the music business. People go, I'm in entertainment, I'm in music, but they forget about the business. And I say it should be called the business of music and the business of entertainment. Take care of your business and then you can make money.
Yes.
It's just that simple.
Aside from getting ripped off, are there any other big lessons that you learned from your from the music industry that you're applying now?
Yeah. Don't spend all your money once you get it, you know, because, you know, early on we had the big gold chains and the cars. And don't get me wrong, I still like the fancy cars, you know, that's one thing. But I got one, not 12, you know what I mean? And yeah, you can do it if you want to, but always say, you know, if you go spend all your money on cars, which depreciate, instead of investing, which I do, instead of going out to the strip club and throwing money around and going and spending money on your friends and doing all of this, when you get older, you're going to start looking for that money. So I learned at an early age, and I actually thank people like, you know, Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer and these guys who amassed millions of dollars, like really, really quickly, but then lost a lot of it. And when you see that, you kind of go, oh, okay, they were the biggest at the time and now they're not. And, you know, you always have this. So you have to kind of look, when you're at the top, you need to look at how to sustain. There's a sustaining point to where when you come off that hill or come off that mountain, how can you just sustain yourself and just float into the future?
this is a good chance for us to give a word to our sponsors.
I would like to introduce you to our sponsors because without them, this podcast will not exist. So our first sponsor is Reed Smith. Reed Smith is a globally recognized law firm helping founders navigate every stage of growth from formation and fundraising to scale and exit. Our next sponsor is Sunstone. They support entrepreneurship, education, and inclusive innovation by partnering with universities, nonprofits like us, accelerators, and public-private initiatives to create opportunities for the next generation of founders. And last but not least, we have Clone Force.
Most companies today are still using AI as a point solution, writing copy, summarizing meetings, answering questions. That's useful, but it's still basically AI as a tool. What we're building at Clone Force is really the next layer beyond that. We're building clones, persistent AI teammates that can actually operate across the tools a company already uses. So instead of another chatbot sitting off to the side waiting for a prompt, you have a digital worker with identity, memory, voice, context, and the ability to take action in the flow of work. What's powerful is that these clones can be shaped around a specific role or person. They can have the right knowledge base, the right skill set, the right tone, and they can work across chat, email, Slack, meetings, CRM, and other business systems. So they're not just there to assist, they can actually help execute and strategize. And from a platform standpoint, we're model neutral, tool neutral, and channel neutral. So we're not forcing customers into one model or one interface. We're giving them a command center for their AI workforce with the flexibility to use the best tools for each job and the governance layer to manage it all responsibly. For businesses, this changes the equation pretty dramatically. It means that you can scale execution, consistency, and responsiveness without scaling overhead the traditional way. You're not just buying software, you're deploying digital labor in a much more practical, controlled, and effective way. At a high level, we think the future of work is human-centered and clone-powered. Humans should be focused on judgment, relationships, and creativity, and clones should take on more of the repeatable cross-system execution that eats up so much time today.
So when I think about you, I think about you're an artist, you're a coacher, you're an innovator, you are technologist, right? Take us back to that story you were telling me before the camera was rolling, when you were, was it 5 years old or 6 years old, young? You took a radio, you dissected it, and you put it back together.
Yeah. So as a kid, and this is where I give the shout outs to how I got to where I am. Like I talked about it earlier, my uncles and cousins, they were crazy and did a lot of dirt in the neighborhoods, which kept me out of the streets, right? And they whooped my butt a few times when I wasn't supposed to be where I was. Like, you're not supposed to go to that liquor store on the corner, and they'd find me at the liquor store. And I remember they drug me back from the liquor store, opened the windows in the living room, and spanked me in front of all my friends, because I wasn't supposed to be down there. And they all got sent away to the military, right, to be reformed. And I remember as a kid, 5, 7 years old, they would come back from overseas, being on tour or whatever. And one of my uncles had this huge, suitcase. And I'm like, what is that? So he opens the suitcase and he opens the top piece and sits it up. And it's this thing with these knobs and wires. And I'm like, what the hell is that thing? And then he opens the bottom piece. It's a keyboard. So it was a synthesizer, and it was called an ARP 2600, right? And he brought one back from overseas. And I would sit there all day like a mad scientist trying to figure out how to get sounds out of this thing. I could barely do it. But eventually I figured it out. But, when they would leave, I would just try to figure out how to open stuff. So they had a radio. I would open the radio and put it back together, just see what it was. And then I got into CB radios because my uncles were all into CB radios. And I had a deep voice as a kid, too. So I would get on the CB radio and do stuff. And there was a guy in my neighborhood, they used to call him the Green Lizard. And he had an illegal CB base station, what they call in his house. So when he would get mad at people, he would turn on the amplifiers, which you're not supposed to do because when you were on a CB radio, the maximum wattage by the FCC was 5 watts. And he would turn on 100 watts and just blast out the whole neighborhood. It would bleed through your television. You could hear him on everything. And I'm like, I want to learn how to do that. So I opened up the CB and figured out there were transistors in there. And there were some that, even though you were limited to 5 watts, it had more than 5 watts capable. So I figured out how to turn the wattage up on it and do certain things. So I've been Willy Wonka, you know, since I've been a little kid.
So what was your handle back then?
So
if you were broadcasting?
Yeah, so this is a funny story. So I'm a little kid, and I call myself Pretty Boy, right? And so when I was around maybe 11, 12, I had this deep voice, and I would talk to all of the women on the CB radios. And one day they had like what was called a CB jamboree at a park where everybody get together and meet each other. So I go to this with my uncles because he had a van with the CB, and we're in there. And I go there, and they see who Pretty Boy was, this little kid, and they never talked to me again on, on the CB. They were like, you know,
When you say little kid, how old were you?
Maybe 11.
11? Okay.
12 years old at the time. And then I moved from CB radio to ham radio. And I remember getting a ham radio license and going through the process to get that. And yeah.
With much greater reach now.
Yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't talk to the women anymore. So I started talking to people around the world, you know, and I had to learn Morse code. I had to learn, you know, my call sign at the time, which I still remember, K-A-W-A 7371, and kind of got into that. Yeah.
So there's, if you look at like in my life, there's these pivotal people that have taken me from one path, and then all of a sudden I pivot to another path. What are some of those pivotal people in your life when you kind of change to different chapters of your career?
Yeah. So, you know, first and foremost, like I say again, my uncles and cousins who kind of get me out of trouble by seeing them in trouble. You know, my mother and father, my mother, you know, for getting me attorneys and accountants at a very, very young age and keeping me from just spending my money on just a lot of stuff I shouldn't have spent my money on. Actually made me invest at 16 or 17 in technology and oil and a bunch of other stuff at that age, which I still didn't understand. I got to get my money, and this is no disrespect, I got to get my money to this white dude. And what are you going to do with it? You know, I'm a little kid. I'm like, when am I going to get it back? And then you start seeing the dividends. You start understanding like, oh, I make money off of this, and I can take this money and put it into this, and this is going to make me money. So instead of, you know, scraping up to buy rims, I can buy whole cars now. I can buy houses. I can do all of this. So that gives shout out to my mom on that. And then moving further into the future, I would say that this is the craziest thing is everyone I've met on the golf course. Because that's what I think kept me alive being in the hood, you know, because once I learned how to play golf, I was on the golf course a lot more than in the streets or, you know, only time I would do the parties is if somebody was paying me to do the parties. I wasn't going because I had to go to sleep early because I want to play golf the next day. And I would meet everybody on the golf course. The vice president of Samsung is a friend or used to be a friend before he retired. You know, people in entertainment, in technology. I've done so many deals on a golf course just playing golf with people, you know, so the racism goes out the window, everything goes out the window. You're just with somebody for 5-6 hours playing golf and you become friends. They ask you to play golf again. So I think those are the things that really, really kept me on the straight and narrow and also made me resilient because golf is the only sport that will wear you down to nothing. And you have to be patient, you have to be steadfast, and you have to be very, very mentally strong to get through 5 hours of hitting a little white ball that never wants to go in the hole.
It's a very humbling sport.
Yes, it is. Even, I mean, look at LeBron James, like during the playoffs, LeBron James and Reeves are on the sideline practicing their golf swings in the middle of the playoffs. That's how much, you know, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, all of these successful sport figures are playing golf. Guess why? That's the one sport they can't conquer.
Yeah, ask Charles Barkley.
Ask Charles Barkley. Yeah.
We talked about your childhood, and today you have N.W.A.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the journey and how you got to where you're at right now. And then what are you looking to do for our community? Because you're very invested in our community as well.
Yeah. So I have Innovate Next, which is what I call my tech brainchild, Innovate Next and Innovate Next Open Labs, where it's where I just come up with my ideas for all the things that I do, all my companies and things like that. And then I have N.W.A Capital with my business partner, Jerry. And we, in N.W.A Capital right now, are raising a fund to put money into the next creators, the next founders. And people always ask me, and I'm going to be totally honest about this, because you're an investor, you're an investor, you're an investor. I got friends who are investors. I really, really hate the whole investor VC thing. I hate how everything is so, okay, you got Series A, you got Series B, you got pre-seed, you got angel, you got all of these rules and things that kind of put everything in this box, right? And then they ask me, okay, what are you investing in? And I give them the Cat Williams answer. Everything, everything. We invested in everything. And the reason is, I think you do yourself a disservice. Now, I understand if you have a med tech investment and you're investing in med tech, but you're going to pass up something amazing to stick over here, right? So for us, we're open-ended in what we're investing in. We're looking at the best of the best of the best. We're looking at what's going to take technology into the future. And I mean in everything, in food, in fashion, in technology, in, marketing, in AI. It doesn't matter.
So, I mean, that's commendable, because that's outside the box for sure. But how are you doing your due diligence when you don't have expertise in all of these silos? Tell us how you analyze which to invest in.
Yeah, because I'm Willy Wonka and I actually do have expertise in all of these silos. So for me, it's just like any other business. The stuff that I know, I'm going to look at first. If there's something that I don't know, what do? You find a specialist or somebody who does know to take you down that road, to look at the due diligence, to make sure that this is something that could make money. Now, we never know, from my vision and from what I always hear, 80 or 90% of all startups fail.
That's right. So are you investing in the jockey or the horse, and why?
Yeah, I invest in people, right? And I invest in people and their IP. And, what I say all the time when I speak on panels or when I do keynotes, one, you have to like the people that you are investing in. You don't want to invest in anything if you don't like the people or you don't like what they're doing just to get a buck. I mean, there's so many things out there you can just throw money at to make money. But if you're not 100% in, why are you doing it, right? So you want to invest in people you love or people you like, the IP that you like, and looking at how you can help them scale. Like, here's a perfect example. And I often say, everybody's shooting for the unicorns. Oh, we're going to go for a unicorn. Okay, what's the difference with putting money in 20 startups, having 19 fail and getting a unicorn? And then you say, okay, we're successful. I would rather put money in 20 startups and have 20 successful startups that only make me $1 million each. And out of those 20, I can get to the unicorn status through 20 successful companies as opposed to trying to push for that one unicorn. And I'm going to say one more thing and then we'll go. It's that vision and looking at companies that, I always call it this, one click, right? I've got a company that's doing stuff, but all they need to do is scale. They're making money. They just need help. They might not even know they need help. I found a company, and I got to reach back out to them too. There was a girl and her husband at one of the golf tournaments I was at, and they were giving out bags of popcorn. Okay, I'm going to get some popcorn. And I grabbed the popcorn, and why is this popcorn green? And she said, taste it. So I taste the popcorn. They had figured out a way to take the, what are those the little candies, the hard candies that you could see through, kind of, the Jolly Ranchers, the hard Jolly Ranchers? They would melt Jolly Ranchers and dip it in popcorn. And they were selling these things like crazy. And they gave me back. I'm like, you guys are a startup. They go, what do you mean? Like, I can see this in stores. I can see this in Walmart. I can see this in that. So I'm going to work with them to help them scale that company, because that's a multi-million-dollar company, but they don't know it because they don't think like startups. They don't think like technologists. I'm like, this is a technology company because we can figure out how to, instead of you just sitting at home with a pot melting this, we can figure out a way to do this way. So that's kind of how I look at things.
Gosh, it's and what you're saying right now, it's so valuable. It's exactly what our founders need in our community. So I am curious, and I've never asked you this directly, but what made you want to join the TCVM board?
Yeah, like I said, I'm about people. I'm about startups. When I came and did the first event with you guys, I thought it was amazing. And we need more of that. You know, we need more. And the fact that the way you did it, you know, and having the skulls. And this is cool. This is hip. This is new. People enjoy it. People will come back. And I deal with a lot of things where I sit in a room for 2, 3, 4 hours. Locked in there listening to these startups, and it's just such a nightmare. So it was a breath of fresh air, and whatever I can do to take this to the next level, I'm all in.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yep. I got my survivor t-shirt on.
I
have.
Well, just on that note, the thing is, like, being a founder is hard.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been a founder several times, and I've never had a W-2. It is tough.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when you're an early stage founder, it's so hard that if you're not having fun, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And for us, we're at the top of the funnel in our ecosystem. So we need more founders coming in and participating and understand that there's a community of people that are struggling too.
Yeah.
Right. And we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And let's help each other, support each other, and get through it so they can get to that next level.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say, and then go ahead, and then I'll hit after.
Well, mine tying into everything that we're saying, because you said something that was very powerful earlier. You invest in people, people that you like. Every investor we have spoken, even in interviewed here, they invest in people. We have a community of people. What do you look for when you invest in someone that you like? Like, what is the characteristics? You talk about the little girl. You know, obviously you have a good product. There's something about that attracted you. You're a visionary.
Yeah.
Right. So tell us what do you look for to invest in terms of the people?
It's like hunger, belief, the hustle. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, and are they making money? You know, because sometimes people, especially at startups, they'll go, we got the greatest, you know, product and this and that. And this is the best advice I can give a startup. Do not tell me that your TAM and all of this stuff, like it's $75 trillion is what we could possibly make. I don't want to hear that. I would rather you tell me at the worst case scenario, like if we just do okay, we'll make this. If you show me that and say, that's the worst, this is the worst case scenario for your startup and your, you know, product, I'll buy in. Because if I can see like, oh, okay, I see that you're not in this fantasy world, right? It's very rare that a company's gonna hit those numbers, right? If they do, everybody applauds, but it's really, really hard. And I give people, so here's 2 pieces of advice. And I always say one, it's kind of corny, but it is. The first piece of advice is look at your market, right? Put out your product. Hopefully it's doing well. Don't wait and let somebody else go, oh, that's a great idea, and build that product. Build that product again and give it another name. So I want you to be the first company, company A, company B, and maybe company C. That's how I think. Because if you come up with something that's hot, look at AI, Anthropic, and all the different AI companies. As soon as somebody came up with one, they go, oh, let's do this. Everybody jumps on. So if you're A, B, and C, let somebody be D, E, and F. But at least you're competing against yourself for market share. And the second thing I'm going to say is, and I always say this, is don't buy a waterfall wall. And what
does that mean?
What that means is I went to a startup that got funded. They bought a building in Santa Monica. I'm in there at the party and talking to people, and I'm leaning on a wall talking to this guy, and my arm is getting wet. And I'm like, that's cool. They got a waterfall wall. And I'm like, how much did that cost? You're a startup and you've got a slide, you've got a waterfall wall, you've got all this stuff in your office. A year and a half later, they were gone because they were just spending money. You're not Google. When you become Google, then you can have a waterfall wall. Save that money, bootstrap. I always say, even when you get money, bootstrap, like suffer until you really need that money, because creativity comes from suffering. Just that simple.
That's a truth bomb right there.
That is a good one.
It's so true.
So we've heard about your early beginnings. We heard about N.W.A. We heard about Innovate Capital, your new startup GOAT.
Yep.
Is there anything else that you have that you want to share with us?
Oh yeah. So we've got right in October.
Yes, we do. OC Tech Week.
OC Tech Week. It's official. Is this the first one?
This is the first one.
Okay, so finally an official OC Tech Week. So we got OC Tech Week coming in October. And because I'm a golfer, and we were trying to do this before, but we wanted to consolidate and do it with some friends and do it somewhere closer to home. So we are going to do the first ever I don't want to say the word Shark Tank, because that's their thing. But we have an idea to do this thing called Pitch Masters, where we're going to have 18 holes of startups on the golf course with their booths and their information, pitching their ideas to the investors that are playing golf. So that's going to be part of OC Tech Week. So, by the time this airs, if anybody wants to play golf or be a startup on one of the 18 holes, and our vision is to have 4 a year in 4 different places. So we'll take 6 finalists from each of the first 3, and then we'll have 18 for the final. We're going to give away some money at each one, but my goal and my hope is to give away $100,000 first prize at the finale. So
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And as you wrap this up, I just have one last question for you.
And I have one more.
Okay, so
He has one more.
two more, but we have too many questions.
Yeah.
But if your life was a movie, what would you name it?
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, because I am Willy Wonka. Yeah.
But tell me about, why are you Willy Wonka?
Just because I'm always happy, and I'm just this technologist, futurist. If you came to my house, I've got lasers and 3D printers and UV printers and stuff. I can make and prototype anything, and that's who I am. I'm a prototyper. I'm a futurist. That's who I am.
I want to come over.
I got
I was going to say, let's do TPV on the crib.
Yeah, I got the everlasting gobstopper at the house.
I love it.
There we go.
So we're always looking for guests like you to come in and bring value to our audience, which is first-time founders looking to get funded. In terms of 2 people that you think should be on this show that would add value,
yeah,
who would those 2 people be?
Wow, that's a hard one. See, I thought about it, and one person that I know, he's not local, but maybe we can catch him when he actually comes to LA, and that's a buddy of mine, Sir Mix-a-Lot, because he's another one that's been in the music industry, but he's also deep into technology and deep into building companies and, doing amazing things like that. So I would say Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back, Sir Mix-a-Lot. And then for that second person, probably I would say, and that's another person, both my people are not in town. And
we can do virtual too.
Yeah, maybe we can do something virtual. B. Bon Bo, and you have to look him up. Amazing, amazing guy. He was the chief marketing officer, and hopefully I'm saying this correct. I think he was a chief marketing officer of Mondelez, which was Kraft Foods. I think he did something with PepsiCo. He's got a new company now with some partners, but he is, if you want to talk to somebody about technology and marketing and just everything, I think it would be Bonin.
If they can bring value to our audience,
yeah,
we want to have them on the show.
Yeah, definitely. I can make that happen.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being on. You've brought a lot of value to us, a lot of insights, and we'd love to have you on again.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. And Arabian, if people want to find you online, where's the best place to go?
OG Arabian Prince. If you just type in OG Arabian Prince anywhere, you can go to Amazon and type in OG Arabian Prince and you'll find me.
Awesome.
Or go to innovatecapital.com.
How do you spell that?
INOV, 8, capital.com.
Okay, we'll put all that in the show notes, so you can find all the links there. Also, if you think that there's any value in this to your network, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the show.